In 2020, during a time when everyone was stuck in the house and had nothing else better to do, I decided to start a game titled Persona 3 Portable for the PSP. Before this, I knew nothing about the game except for the fact that the characters in the game would shoot themselves in order to summon their personas. And I was like, whoa, that's edgy. Other than that, I really didn't know what I was getting myself into, but I decided to boot up the game and begin the journey. For only 4 hours. Yeah, I only got 4 hours into Persona 3 Portable, but I think it's probably because of the point and click segments of the game, which I didn't like at the time, and the cutscenes, which were only screenshots from the animated cutscenes that played in the original Persona 3. So I dropped the game for an entire year until I decided to start playing the original Persona 3 for the PlayStation 2. This meant that I would have to restart my progress and I would lose my 4 hours of playtime, but I didn't mind. So I decided to begin the journey for a second time. For only about 8 hours. Okay, this time I really don't know why I stopped playing, but I think the fact that the game was 50 to 90 hours of playtime made me believe that I would never beat the game. So I dropped the game for only a couple months this time, until out of nowhere I got the motivation to come back and finish the game, probably because I had the itch to play a Persona game after beating Persona 5 Strikers. But this was the true beginning of the journey, and after a couple of weeks, I finally beat Persona 3, and it was a great experience. Now it's been a year since I've beaten Persona 3, and I wanted to talk about some aspects of the game, so let's get right into it. Now I don't want to spend too much time on the story because there are some other parts of the game that I want to talk about, but before I get into the story, I wanted to tell you guys that I will be discussing spoilers in this video, but I will be putting timestamps of where to skip if you don't want to hear spoilers. Got it? Okay, good. Now let's move on to a brief summary of the story. The story starts off with Makoto, or whatever you name the main character, arriving at Tsumi Port Island 10 years after his parents died from an accident. He arrives during the dark hour, a secret hour between one day and the next that only certain people with the potential are aware of, while everyone else during this time turns into coffins. With Makoto being one of the few people with the potential, he continues to make his way to the Awatodai dorms, where he meets a kid named Pharos who has him sign a contract stating that he will take full responsibility for his own actions. After this, we get introduced to Yukari Takuba and Mitsuru Kirijo, who are members of SEAS, a club at Gekugan High School disguised as a normal club after school that we get recruited to later. Speaking of Gekugan High School, that's where we head to the next day, where you meet some more characters, blah blah blah. Then the next day you meet the chairman of the board from your school, blah blah blah. Then you get introduced to Igor, Elizabeth, and the Velvet Room, blah blah blah. Then the next day the dark hour occurs again and you finally awaken to your persona.
Persona.
Later we get introduced to Tartarus, a place that can only be entered during the dark hour, where most of your time will be spent fighting shadows who feed on the minds of humans. And every full moon, SEAS will have to defeat bigger shadows than the ones that appear in Tartarus. And once they defeat all 12 of them, the dark hour will disappear forever. And that's basically a brief summary of the story / plot without spoilers. Now the game truly begins. Even though it takes a while for the game to open up and give you the freedom to do whatever you want, I still enjoyed how the game presented the story in the beginning and even throughout the entire game. I really liked how important events in the game were portrayed by animated cutscenes, like Makoto summoning his persona for the first time. And on top of this, the art style they use for these cutscenes are also nice to look at. To add to the story, the theme of death plays a big role in this game, which really interested me and kept me playing until the end. The way our party members summon their personas is a constant reminder for them that death is a real thing and will come for us all eventually, no matter what we do in life. Or at least that's my interpretation of it. Now this next part is a big spoiler, so please skip to this timestamp if you don't want to hear it. Okay? Alright? Okay, good, now let's move on. The whole theme of death really comes full circle when you reach the top of Tartarus to face off against the final boss, who is, well, death itself, basically. At a certain point in the game, I would make jokes about the final boss being death itself, but I'm really glad that dang, that stutter. Ooh! At a certain point in the game, I would make jokes about the final boss being death itself, but I'm really glad that this decision was made, because with this game, I can't really see anything else being the final boss. Okay, I don't want to get too deep into all of the story in the game, so I think I'm going to stop there and move us on to the next segment. Now for this segment, I was debating on whether or not I should include these two subjects as separate segments or just one, and decided on putting them together because I feel like these two complement each other really well. These are two things about the Persona franchise that makes me really enjoy my time with these games: the environments and the music. Tatsumi Port Island is home to a few different locations like Polonia Mall, Gekugan High School, and the Awatodai Dormitory, which are some of my favorite environments in the game. Now don't get me wrong, these locations aren't that populated or colorful, but I think that's why I like them so much. For some odd reason, they give me a nostalgic feeling, like I'm revisiting a place that I haven't been to in a while. This could be because of the graphics of the PlayStation 2, which add a certain charm to the game. Now the music is something that these games are known for, and the music in this game does not disappoint. The music that they chose to put with each area in the game was perfect. When I hear the song Want to Be Close, I instantly get reminded of being in school walking down the halls to my next class with my earbuds in while listening to this song, and it fits so well. It's weird because whenever I hear that song now, I can't hear it as anything else besides the school theme. When I hear the song When the Moon's Reaching Out Stars, it gives me the feeling that the sun is starting to set and you're making your way back home after hanging out all day. Which is kind of what happens in the game. You see what I mean now? Hold on, let me do one more just so I can have an excuse to include more music from this game in this video. The song that plays when you enter the Awatodai dorm makes me feel like it's nighttime and I just got back home after a long day and I'm just ready to chill for the rest of the night. You know what? At this point, I'm gonna just show you some of my favorite songs from this game. Also, real quick, I wanted to say I like how the theme of each block of Tartarus after the first one adds to the song from the first block of Tartarus. And by the time you get to the top block, you'll have a complete song, which was really cool. Now, I'm about to talk about spoilers again, so skip to this timestamp if you don't want to hear them. Okay, let's move forward. I think when the environment and the music complement each other the best is near the end of the game when Seize defeats all 12 shadows, but then realizes the Dark Hour didn't disappear. They are introduced to a character named Ryoji, who tells the group that he is the Appriser who was born from the union of the 12 shadows. He also tells them that he is the Harbinger of Death, and that if he isn't killed, he will uncontrollably bring in Nyx and the end of the world. So they are told they have a choice to make. Either kill Ryoji and get their memories of last year wiped and live normal lives until eventually all of humanity dies, or go on and try to fight Nyx, which they are told is impossible. But they are given about a month to make their final decision. So for about a month, the team believes that no matter what they do, they will die either way. But they later decide to fight Nyx no matter what happens. And for the rest of the game, the mood changes. No longer will you hear the usual theme for the school or the theme that plays when you're out running around. Instead, it is replaced with something more depressing. This combined with the soulless bodies everywhere and the graffiti on the walls in town with trash all over the place gives this game a depressing feeling, almost as if you making the decision to fight Nyx was a mistake, and that you should have killed Ryoji. They did a really good job of making the player feel what the characters feel in the game. It made us put ourselves into their shoes and think, was this the right decision? Will this work? Are we still gonna die? Alright, that got pretty dark, so I think we should finally discuss how this game works is that there is a calendar system where each day you have different time periods of the day to do activities like buying items and talking to your social links. This was the first Persona game to introduce social links, where if you talk to certain people in the game over and over again, you'll learn more about that character, and in the process, leveling up these social links will allow you to create more powerful personas. When I first played the game, I thought the social links would be how you got new team members to join Seize, because someone told me that I would get someone on my team named Shinji, and I thought they said Kenji. So for the entire beginning of the game, I thought that Kenji would join my team eventually. I was wrong. obviously. I enjoy the calendar system in Persona games because of the fact that it makes the game feel more like you're living a day-to-day life, just in a video game, which is a pretty cool concept. Although sometimes I did find myself split between what social links I should work on after school, because talking to one social link basically takes up the entire day, and then you get put back into the dorm in the evening. Once you're in the dorm, you can go to Tartarus, where a majority of the combat will be happening. Tartarus is split into 6 blocks that in total consist of 263 floors, with an optional block consisting of 10 extra floors. At about every other 5 to 10 floors, you'll face a mini-boss that you'll need to beat in order to move on to the next floor. These mini-bosses were pretty easy to beat at the beginning, but once the game continued, it got more and more difficult, which was cool. I mean, the game can't stay easy forever, but once I got to the sleeping table, from that point on, I was on Google looking up how to beat these mini-bosses. Although after I beat each and every last one of them, I felt so satisfied. As you may know, the combat of Persona 3 is turn-based, where you can directly control the actions of the main character, but all your other party members have to be controlled through a menu, where you tell them what type of actions you want them to do, instead of having full control over them. At first, I didn't mind this gameplay decision, and actually enjoyed it, but once I got further into the game, I found it pretty annoying how my teammates would make stupid decisions that I wouldn't make. Although I don't blame the game for this, because I could have used the menu and the commands given to me in a better way, because looking back, I didn't really use the menu. Back then, I didn't fully understand the game, but if I played this version of the game again, I would probably use those commands to my advantage. I also liked how attacking an enemy's weakness would knock them down and give you another turn. Knocking down all the enemies on screen will allow you to perform an all-out attack, where all your teammates basically just jump the enemy. The addition of the Velvet Room is one of my favorite parts of the game, because of how you can take the personas that you find in Tartarus and bring them here in order to fuse them together to make stronger personas. I found it really satisfying when I had the maximum amount of personas I could hold and just got rid of them by fusing them together. Now, I don't play that many turn-based RPGs, but I feel like these additions really changed up the usual turn-based RPG formula and made for some unique ways to play the game. I could replay this game again and the experience would be different from the first playthrough. And while I'm on this topic, I'm gonna give a shout out to all these characters who came in clutch for me in my mini battles throughout my first playthrough. Except Yukari. You sold me on multiple occasions. Alright, now it's time to wrap up the video. If you couldn't tell from this video, I really like Persona 3. From the story, to the music, to the gameplay, I enjoyed every second of this game. Well, almost every second. And I hope you were able to relate to some of the stuff I said in this video if you played the game. But if you haven't, then I hope this video encourages you to start playing the game yourself. This was the first Persona game I played that really got me into the franchise, which is a decision I don't regret at all. And neither will you. Sorry if this video was a little weird. This is my first time doing these types of essay videos, so I'm still getting a feel for it, but I hope you still enjoyed anyway. I will probably do a Persona 4 and 5 video like this one later down the line, so expect those eventually. Also, I will be doing these videos more often on things I want to talk about, like games and cartoons. On top of this, I'm thinking about doing some art tutorials to help people who are getting into making digital art or art in general, so be expecting that as well. And that's the end of the video. Peace.